Good afternoon and welcome to the Thriving Together Tools for Promoting Staff Wellness in Schools webinars. This webinar is very important to all of us here today because we know that you are all charged with supporting the students within the state of California, and we need to do a really thoughtful job of providing supports and resources for those who are tasked with that. As we get settled and members join, please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat. Write your name, title, organization you represent, and one thing you're hoping to get or learn from today's webinar. We will start at 2:03 p.m.
Carrie, you're muted.
I have to tell you, Sarah, thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate showing me grace. So good afternoon and welcome. I want to welcome you all here today. My name is Terry Sequeira, and I am the administrator of the Office of School-Based Health Programs under the Whole Child Division at the California Department of Education. Thank you for joining us during the summer, a time we hope bringing you so much needed rest and renewal. Today's session is focused on supporting your well-being. Today's session is important to all of us. We'll explore tools and strategies that help you feel connected, cared for, and restored. And because when staff are well, our entire school communities thrive. Our objectives today is to increase awareness and deepen the participants' understanding of the 8 dimensions of wellness: emotional, physical, occupational, intellectual, social, spiritual, environmental, and financial, and their interconnected impact on overall staff well-being. Promote practical strategies, equip school communities with accessible, evidence-based strategies and resources to enhance personal and professional wellness across the 8 dimensions. Foster a culture of wellness, encouraging the schools and districts to cultivate a workplace culture that prioritizes staff well-being through sustainable systems, supportive leadership, and peer connection. With that said, I have the honor and privilege of introducing Sarah Eaton. She is an associate governmental program analyst at the California Department of Education in the Office of School-Based Health Programs. She earned her Bachelor's of Arts degree in English from California State University, Sacramento. Her passion for education and youth advocacy drives her work and informs her approach of policy and program development. Sarah is committed to making a positive impact in her field and continues to work towards advancing the well-being of children through her professional endeavors. She is an absolute gem, and it's my honor to share space with her today. Sarah, come join me up here.
Thank you so much, Carrie, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today, and we are hoping that you're enjoying your summer. I am so excited to kick off this webinar with some self-care practices as the upcoming school year is right around the corner, which I know can bring up some feelings. So as we dive in, I want to offer a gentle reminder. And next slide, please. That we cannot pour from empty cups. Or, as the saying goes, we must put on our own oxygen masks first before we can help others. And I know that these are popular phrases, but they do serve as a great reminder, especially in the work that we do within our educational communities and beyond. We care so much for others, our colleagues, our students, our families and loved ones, that we can sometimes forget to take care of ourselves. And over time, this can lead to things like fatigue, burnout, and other mental health challenges. And to best serve others, we need to nourish ourselves and practice self-care regularly. So what does self-care look like? And how can we make it an active, consistent part of our lives? And it doesn't have to be an extravagant spa day, although that does sound really nice. Self-care can be low cost, or better yet, it can be free. It might mean minding your breath with breathing exercises, doing a five senses check-in. What do you see around you? What can you hear? What smells can you smell? Lighting a candle or listening to music. These small practices help us recharge so that we can continue to show up fully for our students and communities. Next slide, please. So here are a few self-care practices that have helped me feel more grounded this summer. I've been more mindful about screen time, especially with social media apps like TikTok and Instagram. It's easy to get caught up in scrolling, and it can feel mentally drained with the content that we engage in daily. I've started using 30-minute app timers, and when that 30-minute reminder pops up, I try to take a break for at least 10 minutes, usually stretching, stepping outside, or resting my eyes. These short pauses or breaks help me stay present and prevent burnout. And I will also be sharing a resource in the chat that ties in with this, and it's called The 6 Steps to a Healthy Relationship with Your Phone from Mental Health First Aid. It offers small, practical ways to build digital boundaries that support your well-being, like creating a phone schedule or managing notifications to reduce distractions and stress. Reading is another great reset for me, whether I'm picking up a new book from a local bookstore or visiting my local library. It helps me to unplug and recharge. Reading is another great, my journaling is also a great reset for me. I mostly free write, and this helps me clear my head. And I also make sure to get outside for at least 20 minutes a day. If it's not too hot outside, I like to go for afternoon walks with my dog, and I try to keep my phone at home to tune into my surroundings. And ultimately, all of these practices are about anchoring myself and finding small ways to feel steady and cared for, especially during busy and uncertain times. And this is actually a great segue into our next presenter, because anchoring is at the heart of the work that she does. Ali Borowski is the founder and CEO of Find Your Anchor, a powerful grassroots movement focused on suicide prevention and mental health awareness. Through her lived experience, creativity, and compassion, Ali has helped thousands of people feel seen, supported, and mostly not alone. Her work has been recognized by Lady Gaga's Born This Way Foundation and the American Association of Suicidology. Please join me in welcoming the incredible Ali Borowski.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's such an honor to share space with all of you as always. My name's Ali Borowski. I'm the founder and CEO of Find Your Anchor, which at its heart is a grassroots movement aimed at suicide awareness and prevention. We're all about infusing more color, creativity, and humanity into mental health and having a tangible resource. So if you go to the next slide too, I think there's an image. Yep, there it is. So our little blue boxes. that we launch into the world. When you open the lid, it says if you're feeling lost, hopeless, suicidal, this is for you. If not, leave it for someone else in need. Inside are a bunch of resources and good vibes. There's a deck of cards, which, I mean, everything that you've listed already in the chat are anchors. They're just little things in life that bring you joy. They don't have to be groundbreaking or obvious. They could be steak tacos. They could be a lazy Sunday, a hot shower, a breezy afternoon, the smell of fresh rain. Like anyone who knows me knows my go-to anchors. If I'm having a rough day, I want to come home, lay on the sofa, order Chinese food and watch Sister Act 2. It's not solving any of my problems, but it's something to get you through. I love watching the ASL interpreter just do Sister Act 2. That was incredible. Thank you. That was my anchor for today. So it's just these little things that bring you joy and stringing those little moments of joy along. And so there's also a bracelet, there's a mixtape, there's stickers. The mixtape's pretty cool. It'll send you to our Spotify playlist with over 11 and a half hours of feel-good music being such an anchor for so many people. Posters, a letter. At the bottom of the box, it essentially says, if and when you're in a better spot, add to it things that helped you, things that were anchors for you, and launch it for someone else in need. So it has this built-in pay it forward piece as well. And I created Find Your Anchor because I've personally struggled and survived multiple attempts. And it was just my journey in the mental health world felt so clinical and corporate. And as a graphic designer, I needed something more than that. So I thought I'm going to create what I wish I would have had. So it really started out as my own way of healing. We now have over 101,000 boxes in the world, and that's to over 100,000 people and growing by the day. And we're just all about this community of strangers who care, because in the height of my struggling, my core belief was that no one would care. I couldn't feel the love that I really was surrounded by. And I was like, if I could create something that showed you that strangers care about you, maybe it won't be so hard to believe that your friends and family do as well. So really seeing these boxes become a resource in like peer-to-peer and just like ways to show up. So many people reach out and say, my cousin, my neighbor, my best friend struggling. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. And using this box as that conversation piece or an anonymous gift in the mail, and even implementing them in schools. We do a lot of like partnerships with schools and organizations, box building events, bulk orders where we can customize and just really infuse those magical moments into these moments and making these conversations much easier. And so really just also seeing anchors become a love language. You know, knowing what your people's anchors are and what's bringing them joy is a beautiful way to learn how to show up when sometimes words can be hard or they might not even know what they need either. But knowing and stopping on your way home from Taco Bell and bringing a Mexican pizza or grabbing a pack of pink Starbursts. The other day I was super stressed and a coworker just put a blue Gatorade on my desk. And it's just, hey, I see you. And as someone who struggled a lot, the power of that. And you may underestimate it, but for someone on the receiving end, I still remember those moments. So thank you. I will pause there. I'll put my email in the chat, but would love to find ways to partner and just get more of these boxes into the world and curate these magical moments for people. So thank you for all the work that all of you do.
Always with you. And I wish I would have known about you when I was a high school principal, because there is no doubt that these boxes would be filling the school hallways, not only just for the students, but the staff. In the Office of School-Based Health Programs, we will actually pull cards when we're in a kind of a space where we just need to stop and pause and be present. So thank you very much for being here, for being you, and for creating boxes that actually are designed to support the mental health of our school communities. Okay, now I have the pleasure of introducing two phenomenal human beings, Heather Namor and Mara Madrigal-Weiss. I'm sorry if I'm saying it not correct. Mara is the Executive Director of Student Wellness and School Culture at the San Diego County Office of Education. She leads several SDCOE initiatives, including mental health and wellness programs, support for foster youth, education for homeless students, and the past American Corps programs. Mara has promoted student mental health and wellness for over 20 years. For the past 8 years, she has led her team's efforts to enhance mental health awareness and literacy, combat stigma, and improve suicide prevention and intervention practices across the county. She works closely with the state to streamline resources and promote best practices in the field. She'll be joined by Heather. She has a MA in sociological practice, is coordinator at student wellness and school culture for the San Diego County Office of Education. Ms. Moore is a subject matter expert in suicide prevention and school mental health, providing training, technical assistance, and coaching to districts and schools across San Diego County and California. She leads initiatives and advocacy efforts to help shape policies and practices that prioritize suicide prevention and mental health in K-12 schools. I am so honored and happy to share space with these two, and that you are all in for a treat. Will you two come join me up here, please?
Thank you, Carrie. Very happy to be here. Good afternoon, everyone. So we have a lot of information that we are going to be sharing with you. However, we have cut it down in bite-sized pieces. So we want you to sit back, relax. We are going to ensure that the CDE shares all these slides with you. So no need to take notes. It will all be handed over to you. So with that, I am Mara. And my co-presenters, Heather and Carrie, beautiful introduction. So thank you for that. Let's go to the next slide, please. So today what we're going to be covering is we're going to start with the case for workplace wellness. And we are going to be focusing on the 8 dimensions of wellness. And we will be sharing strategies to promote every one of those dimensions and then share very concrete examples of how we can go back as early as today and just start some of these practices. So with that, let's get on to the next slide and just kind of level set the conversation. So there's so many issues that are affecting mental health and wellness, and they're both personal and they're global. So grief and loss, people are experiencing that trauma. We're seeing so much social unrest that's being ignited by explicit acts of systemic racism. We see about the mass shootings, war around different places in the world, the wealth divide, and there's a lot of polarization amid political uncertainty happening right now, as well as what we're seeing around the global climate change. So all of these things touch us in some way or another, if not directly and personally by interacting with loved ones from our colleagues or friends, family that might be experiencing them. So these issues can impact our mental health and they can impact our wellness. So let me share some of the stats and facts regarding mental health. Let's go on to the next slide, please. So we know that 1 in 5 American adults has a mental illness, and 40% of employees will miss work up to 10 days each year because of mental health issues. 1 in 10 full-time workers will struggle with an addiction. And here in California, we've expanded, we used to just focus on mental health. We've now incorporated the terminology is now behavioral health because we've really incorporated substance use disorders with that. It's more of a continuum. So it's not just about mental health, it's about behavioral health, and it really does incorporate the substance use disorders and issues. And then more than 35% of managers feel they lack formal support or resources to help employees with mental health challenges. And we do want to change that. And we want to make sure that we're normalizing these conversations, especially within our educational setting. And then mental illnesses remain the leading cause of disability worldwide. And so stressful workplace environments are considered a risk factor for developing mental health disorders. We want to bring in these conversations, especially in education, because we serve our greatest resources, which is our youth. And so how can we do that? It's with conversations like this one. It's by providing PD around these types of topics. And that's what we're hoping, by having these conversations, by bringing these types of resources, that we continue to really work on this to ensure that our staff are always increasing our ability to serve ourselves, take care of ourselves so we can serve our students. Let's go on to the next slide. To further the statistics and really narrow in on what's happening here in California, We know that 1 in 6 California adults experience a mental illness of some kind, and 1 in 24 has a serious mental illness that makes it difficult to carry out major life activities, which is have relationships, engage in work or study, so just interrupting their everyday lives. And roughly 2/3 of adults with a mental health condition have not received treatment, and that's for a whole host of reasons. It could be affordability, it could be just access, not having the ability to get to care, or of course, it could be cost. And so narrowing the data just even further, let's focus a little bit just on the field of education. And so the next slide, please. Well, the studies that you see here on screen, the focus was on teachers. So teachers in the United States are 40% more likely to experience symptoms of anxiety in comparison with healthcare workers, 20% more likely than office workers, and 30% more likely than workers in other professions like farming and even the military. And in 2024, there was a nationwide study of 1,500 teachers, and they reported 60% reported burnout, 22% reported difficulty coping, and 19% reported symptoms of depression. So while teachers are also more than twice as likely to be stressed than other working adults in various professions, these rates are much higher than those of working adults in a host of industries. So having said all that, while the stats above reflect teachers, we know that on this webinar here today, we have a host of other positions representing administrators, counselors, social workers to support staff, and more in between. So, but that's not all. We don't just have these roles, not just our titles. We also play a whole host of other roles in our daily lives. So let's go to the next slide. We're more than staff, right? We're spouses, we're mothers and fathers, we're daughters and sons and siblings, we're aunts and uncles, colleagues, mentors, and neighbors. And so we play so many roles on any given day, and each of these roles impacts the other. They also impact our mental health and wellness, and our mental health and wellness impacts our roles. It's really reciprocal. So before we go further, we want to level set the conversation by defining mental health and wellness. So we're going to start with the definition of mental health, and we take this from the World Health Organization. So let's go on to the next slide. So for purposes of today, just to level set this, mental health as we define it in the definition that we use most, we follow the World Health Organization, which says that it is a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with stresses of life, realize their abilities, learn well and work well, and contribute to their community. It is an integral component of health and well-being that underpins our individual and collective abilities to make decisions, build relationships, and shape the world we live in. This definition is powerful because it reframes mental health not just as the absence of illness, but as a positive, proactive state that allows us to function fully in the places where we live, work, and play. So for those of us in education whose roles are emotionally intense and constantly shifting, mental health and wellness, they're not just personal, they really are professional. Our ability to calibrate our feelings, emotions, and behaviors effectively depend on how well we nurture our well-being, that is our wellness. And we do this by engaging in practices. So the better we take care of ourselves, the better we are to serve those around us and just the world that we're living. So at every role, right? In every role that we play. So let's define wellness. We'll go to the next slide, please. Wellness in general refers to a dynamic process of maximizing an individual's potential and strengths. It really is active, right? It involves becoming aware and making choices for a more satisfying lifestyle. It's an active involvement in satisfying work and play. And while there is no optimal level of wellness, instead wellness, it's ever going, right? It's a living thing. Wellness is about progress towards an ever higher potential of functioning. And so with that, we're going to move on to the 8 dimensions of wellness, which is our focus here today. So the 8 dimensions of wellness, they emphasize a person-centered philosophy that focuses on an individual's strengths and preferences across multiple dimensions, which are the 8 dimensions. And Carrie started us off by naming them. They're here on the screen. The framework considers emotional, physical, social, occupational, intellectual, spiritual, environmental, and financial wellness, the 8 dimensions. So I'll now hand it over to Heather, who will kick us off with a deeper dive into each one of these dimensions. We will define the dimensions, we're going to share strategies to enhance them, and then we're going to provide specific examples, at least one for each of the dimensions that you can easily incorporate into your wellness practices. So Heather, I hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mara. All right, so we are going to start with emotional wellness as our first dimension. And you can see here, emotional wellness really means effectively handling life's challenges, being emotionally aware, and maintaining healthy relationships with oneself and with others. So people with strong emotional wellness, they're confident, they're in control of their feelings and actions, and have good coping skills for tough situations. All of the SEL work we're doing in schools, it is building all of our emotional wellness and our students. And it's not about being happy all the time. It's okay to be okay most of the time. It's about being resilient, self-aware, and emotionally balanced. So next slide, please. We're going to look at some of the strategies to enhance emotional wellness. So it includes things like being able to ask for help, which requires us to get vulnerable and realizing that asking for help is not a sign of weakness, but actually a sign of courage. Being resilient, everyday challenges that we interact with and so forth are really ways that we get stronger and more resilient. By overcoming those challenges makes us stronger. And then being aware of our feelings and being able to really express those feelings. Our team always uses the phrase, we got to name it to tame it. We can't begin to self-regulate and tap into controlling our emotions until we can first name the emotion that we're feeling. Learning our strengths, working on things we want to improve. For me, it's not letting my emotions get the best of me when my 16-year-old fails a test at school. Because I want to be able to have a calm conversation with him. So we all have things that we are working on. And then and then developing assertiveness and having a positive self-image, which the previous slide just showed how important that is for building emotional wellness. Next slide, please. So we want to share with you one of our favorite strategies for dealing with strong emotions that many mindfulness experts often use, and it's called RAIN. And when we get into a situation where we're feeling emotionally surged, we can tell ourselves RAIN and tap into this strategy. So we'll start by breaking down the R, which is recognizing that we are experiencing something. So just stepping back into observation mode rather than reaction mode, and bringing awareness to our thoughts, our emotions, and our sensations in naming that emotion. And then the A takes us to allowing or accepting whatever it is. Acknowledge our experience, what it is, and just sitting in that. I is investigation. So we want to kindly ask ourselves, what's going on inside of me? Where is this coming from? And bring an attitude of curiosity to whatever we are experiencing. And I love the quote from Mark Brackett. He says, strive to be an emotional scientist and not a passionate judge. And so really being self-compassionate and kind to ourselves while we're doing this. And then lastly, the N is natural awareness or non-identification, remembering that we are not the emotions. Those are feelings. They don't define us and they will pass. So by practicing awareness, we will likely find peace and be able to deal with whatever is happening in that moment. So hopefully RAIN is a strategy that we offer up to try out, and maybe you already use it. So that is our emotional wellness dimension. Next slide, please. So now we're moving into the second dimension, which is social wellness. And really, this is about having a strong support network, feeling connected to others, and experiencing a sense of belonging. And this really shows how the relationships that we have, they are not just a part of our social wellness, but they're also what I just talked about, emotional wellness. So a lot of these intersect with each other. And it's also a part of spiritual wellness, which we'll get to. Feeling isolated, lonely, or disconnected from others it can lead to negative physical and mental health effects. And we know there's this whole loneliness epidemic, and we see so much of the data around that, how it leads to disease and illness and so forth. So social connections and having healthy relationships we build with family, friends are crucial to our well-being, both socially, emotionally, and spiritually. And next slide, please. So just some strategies for building social wellness, focusing on maintaining social connections by staying in touch and connected with others, really keeping those quality of our relationships and keeping them intact with not just our family, but our coworkers, our friends, and our larger community. Being able to interact with diverse groups of people and understand other perspectives and treating people with kindness, because the world needs that more than ever right now. Participating in clubs, social groups, or volunteer organizations. I have to say my daughter was in a dance company and it required the parent to volunteer. And I was like, are you kidding? I have no time. But I ended up volunteering and finding out it brought me so much joy, and it really enhanced my own social wellness. Being aware of our impact in the community, and all of you, the work that you do in your school communities, it's so I have so much respect for all of you, and it's so impactful to our kids. Learning to set boundaries with ourselves and others and finding balance with all of that. And we love Brene Brown saying no to others means saying yes to ourselves, and really understanding where we have to draw those lines and be aligned with our values. Next slide, please. So this strategy is something we use a lot in our trainings, and it's really about building a web of support. Working with students, we always say every student should have three non-parent caring relationships at a minimum. And, we have different tools to be able to build those webs of support for them. Us adults need it as well. So how can we build our own webs of support where we can have at least 3 people in our lives? Emotional support. Example of my BFF, call any time of the day for anything, and she will listen non-judgmentally and be there for me and let me vent. Informational. Another dear friend is a physician assistant, and I can reach out to her for medical information for myself, for my family. Should I go to ER? Should I not? It's amazing to have that. And then practical. My 19-year-old daughter helps take my 16-year-old son to school, or she can grab cat food on the way home if we're out. So having that practical support. And when we're building our web of support, we want to remember, if we want to improve our overall wellness, healthy people hang out with healthy people. And we want to avoid being around anxious, stressed individuals that tend to have unhealthy habits because they bleed, they transfer over, they're contagious. So thinking about, who do I want in my web of support who can lift up these healthy habits and practices. And all of this goes back to resiliency because it happens through relationships. I'm going to hand it back to Mara for intellectual wellness.
Thank you, Heather. All right, so intellectual wellness, defining it. When we're talking about intellectual wellness, it's that wellness where we focus on the brain function related to thinking and problem solving, decision making, creativity, and curiosity. It includes personal control, self-efficacy, application of individual knowledge, and also being able to share that knowledge, fostering personal resilience, and maintaining brain health. And so moving on to the next slide, here's some really specific strategies to enhance our intellectual wellness. It's anytime we can use our creative abilities, exercising our critical thinking skills, engaging in reading books or articles or other content that interests you. And remember, one of the key things is being able to share that information, right? Share what we learn. And then exploring public community events, focusing on your skills and learning new ones, discovering ways to challenge yourself mentally. So there's so many things we can do with this. Traveling is an excellent way to enhance intellectual wellness because we can learn about new cultures, languages, customs, things that we don't normally see in our everyday life. So travel is huge. Also learning skills like playing musical instruments, piano, guitar, something that maybe you've never done before, or picking up hobbies like knitting, painting, something that you've never done, picking it up and learning to do something. It forges also new pathways in the brain. And so anytime we can challenge ourselves is something that is going to build upon our intellectual wellness. Taking classes. So here at the County Office of Ed here in San Diego, we are building out resources for staff. And so we've put in websites where people can take free classes. So not just only at our community colleges, but online. Here's resources for free classes that you can take. And so it's just how can we further learn new things? If you want to go to clubs, people are doing book clubs. So it's just constantly staying on top of learning and building upon our intellectual wellness. And there's also things that we can do individually that we can download with applications. So the example that we wanted to share with you, next slide, please, is here's something we can do, which are brain break challenges. And so what it is these are short breaks during the day to enjoy fun mental activities like puzzles or trivia or word games. And so there's apps that are these word games, and it keeps your mind sharp and engaged. It also helps you boost creativity and problem-solving skills, and it provides a quick mental reset. So oftentimes if we're working on a project, let's say we're writing a report or working on a slide deck or learning something that we have to deliver to staff or whatever it is, if you can build in a brain break it's a tongue teaser too, a brain break challenge and take time to do it, by the time we divert and do something like this, let's say we spend 10 minutes on it and then come back to the project that we're doing, we will often find that we have additional thoughts to give to our project. And it's because we reset. So when we're focused on an activity and then we take time away from it and then come back after doing something differently, we can be more creative with that initial project. So it's a really good way to just kind of reset the thoughts. So you can set aside 5 to 10 minutes whenever possible, and then engage in try a crossword or Sudoku or brain teasers or quick quizzes. Use apps or websites. So this is an example of an app. So it's the Words app. And, just looking at it, I can come up at least 7 words. I've had a little time, so I'm cheating a little bit. But, you see or, so, rod, sod, so, row, and of course the word sword. So there's other games like Vita Mahjong. That is an app that you can download, and it has tiles, and that really serves to enhance cognitive function by having you analyze the different patterns on the tiles. You remember placement. So there's so many things that you can do, but it's about taking the time to engage with them 5 to 10 minutes during the day. So that's a really specific resource that you can do. Most of these apps are free on your phone, so something that you could look into. So think about brain break challenges, but think about also learning a new language, traveling, reading articles, but being intentional. So everything, we can put these strategies out there, but it's about intentionality and engaging in them. Okay, next slide, please. Now, physical wellness defined, and I know we all know, okay, I need to exercise, eat right, those things. But of course, like anything else, it takes intentionality. So the dimension around physical wellness, it involves maintaining a healthy diet, getting enough sleep. I mean, more and more the research is talking about how important sleep is. And while most say 8 hours, the reality is you need enough sleep that works for your body, right? That it's going to get you relaxed and that you have enough energy to focus the next day. So exercising, regular sleep, preventing and managing illnesses, that's what we're talking about. It's about improving your overall health conditions. And then developing a healthy lifestyle and making good choices can improve your overall wellness. This absolutely impacts all the other dimensions, right? Because you need to be rested and healthy to be able to engage fully in the other dimensions. So strategies that you can engage in. Next slide, please. Limiting caffeine, staying hydrated. I struggle with hydration. I'm a big coffee drinker, and I know I need to drink more water. My family knows that too. So my son said, Mom, maybe you need something pretty to drink in, something that's going to, appeal to you. And so I don't know if you can see this, but he bought me this cactus glass. And actually, I am drinking more water because it's pretty and I fill it up, and it's not a big thermos of water because I know I won't do that. It overwhelms me, but I am drinking a lot of these little glasses. So it's working for me. So staying hydrated, moderation with alcohol and other substances, and then seeing your doctor regularly, making your yearly checkup. And then, of course, taking medications or supplements as they are prescribed, just taking care of yourself as you should be and following doctor's instructions. So we wanted to focus and look at physical wellness. And then we wanted to share with you some of the research around walking. So great if you can run. Walking's good too. And so if you can break away from your desk, walk around a little bit, even 10 minutes is helpful. But we also know just very specific strategies and goodness around walking. And so a couple things we wanted to share with you. Walk when you wake up. Walking within the first hour after waking up increases your metabolic benefits and helps boost the brain. So if you can get up, drink a glass of water, and go, the significant part of this one is that you get it out of the way and it sets the tone for the day. Walking to wander. So this is where whenever you walk, and if you get lost or just take a different route, then you're exposed to new landscapes or landmarks, and it forces your brain to sit up and take notice of your surroundings because you're not doing the same thing all the time. And so you're confronted with something new and different, and your brain can begin to build new neural pathways, improving your memory and capacity for learning. So staying away from your usual route. So if you usually go around the block, 2 blocks, and you turn right, maybe turn left and see something new and different. It will help with neural pathways. So your sense of direction will, your new sense of direction will help expand your mind. Walking in the cold. Research suggests that we think more clearly in cold weather, and it can be exhilarating. This isn't the perfect time to do so, but in the fall and the winter, think about taking those walks in the cold. And then walking in silence. Noise exposure has been linked to sleep disturbances, to diabetes, and to stress. So when we have no sounds to disturb us, our bodies can rest, reset, and our brains can get to work on building new neurons. It's very similar to when we're sleeping. And then finally, walking after eating. Research shows that gentle exercise after meals has numerous benefits like lower glucose levels. And here's the good news, and I mentioned earlier, even 10 minutes of walking after eating is really beneficial to the body. So we wanted to share those. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Heather to talk about spiritual wellness.
Okay, thank you, Mara. All right, so spiritual wellness, having a sense of purpose and meaning in life rooted in our personal beliefs and values. And it's also about connecting with nature and self-reflecting and meditating, prayer, or what other practices that you might have. Exploring and actively participating in activities that promote personal balance and align with your cultural background and self-identity. So for me, I'm a big yoga person, and yes, I go to get a good workout, but it's not just a workout, it's a work in, because we're meditating, we're doing things to build our inner selves. And it's a spiritual practice for me. So the same way I overcome the physical challenges of doing yoga is with breath to movement. When I take that off the mat, it's the same way I overcome challenges in real life situation. It's my breathing, it's my movement, it's my meditation and positive self-talk. So what is it for you? Really making sure it's something that resonates and works for you with spiritual wellness. Next slide, we will show you some strategies to enhance spiritual wellness. So taking time for activities that enhance your sense of connection to self, to nature, and to others. I go to Lake Arrowhead a lot because I have a sister that lives up there, and I use it to forest bathe. Being in nature, being in the trees, and just quiet, no sounds, and just it's a healing thing for me. So how can we tap more into that connection with nature? Discovering our values, our principles and beliefs, and making sure they align with our daily practices. Helping others who are in need, because it really connects us to something bigger than ourselves, which really leads to searching for meaning in our life. Finding moments of awe. Just, when I look out my window when I'm working, the other day I saw a squirrel eating a flower, and it was beautiful. I had to stop, and just finding those little moments of awe and simply just existing in the present moment, paying attention to the incredible wonders of the world. It's all around us. It's just stopping and taking in those moments. engaging in religious or spiritual activities and practices, whether it's prayer or meditation or baths, to really help ground us. And then taking time for ourselves to embrace silence and solitude. Stillness makes space for reflection and spiritual insight. So finding, in this busy world, or the noise pollution that we have, finding moments to embrace silence. And then we are going to now share a strategy for building spiritual wellness, which is called journaling for clarity. So what it is, it's a values check-in, and it's really just writing down your thoughts, feelings, or reflections for a few minutes each day or each week, whatever it may be, taking a moment to really reflect on whether those actions align with our core values. Why it works: it encourages self-awareness and emotional release, which strengthens our sense of purpose and direction. It helps clarify beliefs, values, and goals, which encourages intentional living, and then builds inner confidence and clarity, supporting personal growth and mindfulness. So how do we do this? We set aside 5 to 10 minutes a day or weekly, as I said, identify 3 to 5 personal values. Maybe it's, I want to be more kind, or I want to grow in this area, or want to work on my honesty. And then we use prompts like, what gave me peace today? What am I learning about myself? And at the end of the week, we ask, did I live in alignment with these values? So there's no rules. We write freely and honestly, and just adjust our goals or our habits as needed. So this is journaling for clarity. Next dimension is occupational wellness. And this is really a focus on how a person structures their daily habits and routines, such as engaging in work, school, or volunteer activities. And for most of us, yes, it's work. It's, occupational wellness. So it's about focusing on our daily habits, maintaining a work-life balance that's really crucial to our overall health and our well-being. And so emphasizing finding a preferred daily structure that provides meaning, purpose, and a sense of self-efficacy. So the first step to achieving this is having a job that you enjoy and are passionate about. And that comes from Brene Brown. So maybe it's not finding the perfect job, but figuring out how I can align and build up my passions within the job I'm in. So we often spend more time at work than we do at home. That quality of life is so important, and it's essential to have a positive work environment and be surrounded by people who support you and your goals, because school climate is a big piece of staff wellness. So how do we build that climate to really promote wellness with all staff? Next slide, please. So here are some strategies to enhance occupational wellness. So taking pride in our work and aligning it with what we do and our values, strengths, and goals. Maintaining a healthy balance of work and leisure. So identifying daily habits and routines that support good physical, social, and emotional health. One thing we did in our department is we created a staff wellness corner, kind of like a calming corner, and we set up puzzles and a big, beautiful coloring sheet on the wall, and a lot of tactile things we can tap into, and beanbag and a weighted bear and all these things. And it's so interesting what happened, because people just started taking little breaks, and it expanded outside of our department. And, our superintendent used it, our maintenance people came in and used it. And what that's doing, it's really promoting across the whole organization that it's okay to take breaks, and it doesn't show that you're weak or you're lazy. It's opposite. It's building your resilience within your workplace. So building those work habits and job skills, and that opens up to new opportunities. Always exploring opportunities you're passionate about, because when we love what we're doing, we're the best at what we do. Setting clear goals, it gives us a sense of direction and achievement, and it helps turn those routine tasks into kind of stepping stones to a bigger purpose. And next slide, we will give you a strategy here. So the 50-10 rule, and this is something that I'm working on, work for 50 minutes, then take a 10-minute break. Why it works: it boosts focus and productivity, it reduces burnout and fatigue, and encourages movement and mental reset. So how do we implement it? We can send a timer for 50 minutes of focus work. And then we use that 10-minute break to stretch, hydrate, or take a short walk and repeat throughout the day. So some strategies we've used are setting meetings 50 minutes, not 1 hour. And I think that's one of the best strategies that's really made a change, at least for me, because you have that 10-minute carry over to your next meeting and you can get up and move around. And being able to really just remind yourselves to get away from our desk. And so I have to get up to go down the hallway to fill my water bottle. And, it's probably a 5-minute thing, but I come back and I feel reset. So 50-10 rule. Okay, now we're moving into financial wellness because money is a big part of our overall wellness. And what it does, it enables the cultivation of financial resources and skills necessary to budget, spend, save, and accumulate assets. So in charge of our finances and responsible with our money. So it's about being intentional, informed, and balanced in how we earn, spend, save, and plan our money. Struggling with finances and having unsettled financial situations can cause significant stress for you and your family, and it impacts our overall mental health and well-being. So staying on top of our finance is important for improving our everyday life. So what are some strategies to do this? Let's see with the next slide. Maintaining a budget and monitoring your spending. When you get these slides where that budget word is underlined, that's a link that takes you to a budget template that you can easily design your own budget that works for you. Exploring ways to save money. Maybe it's putting away a certain amount every month as soon as you get paid, or I'm a big coupon user, and a lot of people laugh because it's kind of old school coupons, but I was showing my husband the other day, CVS, I bought a bottle of sunscreen, and with all my coupons, it went from $12 to $2. I was proud. That all adds up. Paying bills on time so we can make sure we are building up our credit and being responsible with that, and being financially literate. So a lot of banks these days offer monthly webinars on all these great topics around saving and buying a home and renting and so forth. So tapping into those resources as well. And then next slide is a strategy for building financial wellness, which is called 4 Pillars of Financial Health. So the first one is spend. To spend wisely, we need a budget. And with a little bit of time, we can put together a clear budget to improve our spending habits. And there are tools out there like the one we offer you in that link. And there's apps that you can download to automate the budget process for you. So whatever method you choose to use, staying within our budgets and staying within our means and adopting healthy spending habits helps us with spending. Save. So everyone needs to save each month, but the reality is sometimes it is so hard. You think I'm going to save this much this month, and then all of a sudden you're down to nothing. So how can we be more intentional about saving, such as experts say saving a minimum of 10% of our monthly income. And if you can't do that, any amount helps to be able to put away. So once you start saving those funds, then you can, consider that off limits. You don't touch it, and then begin to build that emergency fund or more substantial savings for maybe a long-term goal that you have. So having these funds available and try not to use those credit cards. And then borrowing. Healthy debt payment should be no more than 15% of your income. And while credit cards offer perks, we got to be careful because it does improve our credit score, but sometimes those interest payments or those rewards can be dangerous. So just being clear on that, improving our financial literacy leads to that. So having more credit card debt, it gets us into trouble. And then we have those higher interest rates. And then plan. Where do we see ourselves financially in 5 years? Where would you like to be? When would you like to retire? These are the kind of questions that's part of the planning for a healthy financial future. Taking time to figure out what you want your life to look like in the future. Do you want to buy a house or maybe an income property? Will you need to help a child with college tuition? Do you need to help your parents with, in-person in-care home? all of these things, retirement, figuring that out. And usually especially in the education world, we have resources at our fingertip to meet with financial experts to help us figure that out. So tapping into those resources as well. Okay, next slide, please. So I'm going to hand it back to Mara for environmental wellness.
Thank you, Heather. There's some good examples coming in regarding Melanin Money is a movement designed to help close the wealth gap through education and economic empowerment. Thank you. So we will be adding these to our resources. Also, so I know that one of the things we're looking at doing too is like Financial Fridays. So we're going to have our business office do workshops on for staff on Financial Friday. So, so many people, once you start talking about the dimensions, then you look around and within your district offices, within your COEs, people get really excited about this. So when your business office or your HR office is like, hey, we could do something, it's pulling the brilliance of what we already have around us. And so I think about that, who can we pull in to, let's start talking about this. Let's start normalizing this language and how can we support our staff with these dimensions and of course our students and our families. And so hoping this just becomes this movement. So I get to talk about the environmental wellness. And this is, we define it as exploring the surroundings, exploring the surrounding location where a person lives, including the living space and neighborhood, which influences your wellness, right? So everything impacts everything, our space around us. I'm currently in my office. I don't like the bright lights, so I always turn them off and I have a lamp instead, and it just has to be soothing. I do better in a soothing environment. And so my home's the same way. I love color. What makes you feel good, right? So to as much as influence you have in that, in your workspace, in your home space, it's just about making sure that you're creating that environment around you where you have influence to be able to, create that environment that works for you. But also it's the greater environment. It's how are we in the environment that the world around us, right? And in our neighborhoods, but in, the world around us. What is our impact to the world around us? So having that awareness and respect for the world around us too. So when we're talking about this, here's some strategies, ensuring that your spaces, here in the now, next slide, please, decluttering your space, right? Just having some, be decluttering, having a peaceful home environment, spending time outside, being in awe and respectful of the nature around us, the trees, the plants, the beach, if it's, near the ocean, just having that awe and respect for the nature around us, using eco-friendly products and understanding our imprint or footprint in the world, or imprint or print in the world, recycling, and then being aware how you might contribute to pollution, and anytime we can, bringing the outdoors inside so that we have that relationship with nature. So it's not just when we walk outdoors, but bringing the nature inside so that we have, continue to maintain that respect and interaction with nature. And I think that's just a good reminder. And so anytime you can bring in plants into your space, nature sounds, water, anything that just reminds us that we're not alone. It's not humans against nature, but we're one, right? Symbiotic. So anytime we can do that. And so here is a strategy that we wanted to share with you. We were looking a lot at plants because it's just something that we can easily incorporate. And it's amazing, the research out there about plants. And so I just recently got into planting and bringing more of those into my spaces. And so there's so many benefits. And so I wanted to share these things with you. The snake plant, it filters air, removes toxins like formaldehyde, and then it has healing properties. It improves the air quality, and it can help reduce headaches, eye irritations, and respiratory symptoms. So they say that in your sleeping space, to have snake plants could be really beneficial. Aloe vera, air purifier, and it's also a natural remedy. So the gel inside will soothe burns and cuts and skin irritations. And I remember as a little girl, I had a rash, and I remember my great grandma cut it open, and she's like, squashing it all over, and I'm like, what? But great grandma knows best. I'll tell you, it cleared it up really quick. So aloe vera peace lily removes mold and spores and airborne toxins. It will help reduce allergy symptoms, better sleep by increasing humidity. So the peace lily really does increase humidity in the air. And then lavender, it has that calming scent. It reduces stress and anxiety and promotes restful sleep. So a good one, another one to have in the sleep space. And English ivy, it also a pure aerifier. It reduces airborne mold and other toxin particles, which can help with asthma and allergies. And they said it's a good one to have in the bathroom. So with the humidity of the water in the bathroom. And then finally, bamboo palm. It humidifies the air and removes toxins as well. And it helps with dry skin and respiratory issues by increasing moisture. So a couple things we wanted to share with you. Remember, anytime we can bring in nature to us, it's as we want to continue that relationship with nature. So it's just understanding, humans, we share this world. And so knowing that, having a healthy respect for the world around us is key to that dimension, to the environmental dimension. And then finally, we wanted to share some resources with you. So next slide, we have just a link to more information about the 8 dimensions of wellness, a link to a personal assessment. So you have 10 items that you have there for each dimension, and then you get to rank for yourself where you are in it. Always, never, sometimes you engage in these. And while you're doing that, you're learning strategies that you can use to enhance each dimension. And then finally, you have an assessment and plan of action tool for these dimensions. There was a couple questions about how do we have these conversations with staff? How do we bring it up? I think, starting with a personal assessment on the 8 dimensions is a great way. Let's have these conversations. How are we taking care of ourselves? Really non-threatening, dimensions of wellness, all 8 of them. It's like, where are we at? How are you taking care of you? So this is a great way to maybe have that conversation as we start the school year. How are you doing? How are you taking care of yourselves? Here's these 8 dimensions. And I know here we're going to start doing this workshop for our county office. We'll have the intro, and then each month we're going to focus on one dimension and provide all the resources we can to find on that dimension. So with that, it has been an honor sharing the space with you. Heather, if you want to turn on your camera, or if it's already on, I can't tell. We just thank you for allowing us to share time with you. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us. We're at San Diego County Office of Ed. Carrie and team, thank you for letting us be here. We're going to hand it over to the next speakers.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Heather and Mara, for that look into the 8 dimensions of wellness. It is such an important reminder that well-being is multifaceted and deeply interconnected, and you gave us a lot to reflect on personally and professionally, so thank you again. And now I have the absolute honor to introduce our next presenter, Ryan Skaggs. Ryan is a father of 2 and the program director of the California Department of Public Health, Office of School Health. Since joining Office of School Health, he has led various school health programs and initiatives, including state guidance and policy updates and development of the epinephrine standing order. Since starting with CDPH in 2017, he has served in a variety of roles, including strategic planning coordinator, internship coordinator, and program consultant with the CDPH Office of Oral Health. Ryan is a Clinton Global Initiative University Fellow with a background in environmental justice, community organizing, nonprofit management, and HIV client services. Please welcome Ryan.
Excellent. Thanks, Sarah. I don't want to take up too much time today. We have some amazing presenters right after me, but want to just remind you that the Office of School Health is here for you at this time. Many of you may know us by our old name, Safe Schools for All. Our team was very instrumental in helping California schools be able to safely reopen after some of the initial closures early in the pandemic. We know that times are tough for school staff. Whether it is through budget cuts, changes in the federal administration, or the day-to-day stressors of your job and all the hard work that you do in school communities. And while we can't solve all of our problems, I want to come on today's webinar to remind you that the Office of School Health is here for you, and our job is to help make your job a little bit easier. Here at the Office of School Health, we provide technical assistance and webinars on any and all school health topics, including communicable disease, COVID-19, mental behavioral health, immunization, and other key school health topics. We have a Safe Schools team inbox, and you can see it right here on the slide, and I'll go ahead and post it into chat in a little bit. This is a one-stop shop for any and all school health questions that you may have. It's also a great place to contact us if you would like to subscribe to our listserv or attend our webinars that we have every 2 weeks on Tuesdays. We respond to all requests received within 2 business days. And while we're not always the subject matter experts on all school health topics, we do our best to ensure that we close the loop, provide warm handoffs to subject matter experts, and see all technical assistance requests through to completion. We also maintain our School Hub website, which is another great resource for any and all things school health related. If you want to find resources on immunization, communicable disease mitigation, school behavior health, it's all right there, and we'll go ahead and put the link in the chat in just a little bit as well. Next slide, please. Just want to invite you all to our upcoming webinar series. We took a short break over the summer. We'll be beginning our webinars again on August 19th and having them every twice a month on Tuesdays. So our first webinar will be welcoming everybody back and reminding everybody about the wealth of resources and tools that we have developed to help you do your job. On September 2nd, we have a special suicide prevention webinar, and then a really exciting webinar coming up on September 16th, as we will be releasing the California Department of Public Health albuterol standing order, which will be a tremendous game changer in helping schools to be able to stock and administer unassigned albuterol multiple dose inhalers. So this will be a huge deal, and we're really excited about that. So you're all invited to join us. Again, if you're not already receiving our emails or subscribe to our webinars, please contact us at safeschools.team@cdph.ca.gov, and the link is right there in the chat. Next slide, please. So again, just acknowledging that this is just a very difficult time for folks working in schools and for folks working in health. Burnout is very real right now. Many of us may have had experiences with burnout in the past year or known people who have. Also, many of our colleagues have lost their jobs in this environment. So please take care of yourselves and take care of each other. I'm pleased to present our next presenters from UC Berkeley Hearts and HeartCore Consulting. Today we have Doc Marta and Dr. Stephanie Ganoso. Doc Marta has worked with children, youth, and families who have experienced trauma for the past 20 years. She earned the title Doc Marta working in schools the past 13 years. She is biracial Korean white, non-binary, and has been working to empower others to change the systems of oppression that exist all around us. She provides training, consultation to create trauma-informed, racially just, safe, and supportive school environments. Dr. Ganoso is an academic devoted to development and implementation of programs and systems that promote resiliency and flourishing with youth, families, communities. Dr. Ganoso joined forces with Dr. Joyce Dorado and Doc Marta in 2016 to build trauma-informed and responsive schools and school-based health centers in the San Francisco Bay Area. So please welcome them for today's presentation, and thanks for having me.
Before they start, Chief Skaggs, I just have to take a moment to give a huge shout out to you and to your office. I have to say, and I will say it over and over again, as a high school principal, I wish I would have known of the office. It is an incredible resource and everything related to health. And if you don't know the answer or someone on your team, you find the answer, and your follow through is phenomenal. I could not even preach enough of what an incredible resource this is. And Ryan, all I have is my integrity, so I'm going to speak my truth. So I'm going to make sure you follow along with him. The webinars are great. And even if you see you have an area of need and you reach out, he will design and provide that support for you. He's an incredible resource. So thank you, Chief Skaggs. I love sharing space with you, and I'm happy to meet the next group.
Thanks, Carrie.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you all for having us. Thank you, Chief Skaggs, for welcoming us into this space. Stephanie Guinoso, and I'm here with my colleague, Doc Martha, representing Hardcore Consulting. And the work we do is really about partnering with school communities to create safe, supportive, and equitable learning and teaching environments that promote healing, belonging, and school success. And our big goal is to restore joy and wellness in teaching and learning, so that whole school communities can thrive. And what's important to share about our work is that we really approach well-being from the interpersonal level, so intrapersonal level, like the way we show up for ourselves. Also at the interpersonal level, how we interact with others, whether that be students, whether that be adults, how those folks interact with us, and at the systems level. So we care a lot about how our environments, how our schools, how our organizations can either support or get in the way of our well-being. And so we know that schools are incredibly stressful environments, and we really aim to partner with schools to change those environments to enable more well-being. So for today, we wanted to guide you through a brief activity from a longer workshop that we provide on how we can collectively create communities of care, because we know that we need each other to stay well. So I'd like to invite you all, if you are in front of a computer, if you have access to a piece of paper and a pencil, pull that out. We'll do a brief reflection activity together. If you don't have that accessible, I invite you to use your imagination, and you can create one in your mind. And on that piece of paper, draw a basic tree, and that tree can include some roots. It can include a trunk, maybe some leaves and branches. Does not have to be very special, given that we don't have a lot of time today. So just something basic to represent a tree, and leave a little bit of space, whether that's on your paper or in your mental image, to write some reflections. All right, go ahead and move to the next slide, please. So in our work to transform systems and cultures to create greater well-being for all, we know that it's important to start with ourselves, right? Start by knowing kind of who we are, what are the things that shape us, because that's going to inform how we show up for others. So on your piece of paper or in your mental image, we'd like to invite you to reflect for just a moment. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Sorry about that. Reflect for just a moment on some of the values that guide you, some of the values that guide how you show up in your work, what guides how you show up in your life. And don't have to think too hard. Just jot down, what are some of the values that come to mind? What are those things that are important to you? And as you're thinking of those values, just reflect individually, where do these values come from, right? So we're all shaped by our experiences and our relationships. So our relationships to our families, our relationships to our culture, to our communities, our relationships and connections to others. And those really shape how we show up in the world for ourselves and for others. And as you're looking at the values or thinking about the values that really kind of drive and motivate you, just take a moment to notice, like, are you living these values as you approach your work? And how might these values be supporting or getting in the way of your well-being? For those of us who maybe are overgivers feel the need to be ambitious, right? Sometimes those values that drive us can actually get in the way of our well-being and how we can contribute to a caring community. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next slide, and I will turn it over to Doc Martha.
Hi, y'all. Those of you who've been online since the very beginning of this have been sitting a long time. So I'm just going to invite you to take a very quick break. It's funny they said brain break in the earlier thing. We also talk about brain breaks in the classroom, but we talk about really short things like 30 seconds. So I'm just going to invite you to just shake your hands a little bit, maybe stretch your arms over your head. Just give yourself just a moment because we have been sitting here, standing here for a while. When I think about the mitigating trauma and stress through community, like we talk about chronic stress, but we're also talking about the way these same principles apply to feelings of overwhelm and burnout, which I think that educators, people working in schools and school situations know a lot about. Can we just go ahead to the next slide? We really want to invite you to pivot away from this grind culture. This is something that Stephanie was just saying about this idea that even a value that seems like a good value can also harm our ability to connect with other people, can harm our well-being in general. So grind culture is deeply embedded in this country and in other Western culture countries and institutions. It can be applied even to self-care. So this idea that somehow I need to do self-care in a particular kind of way, that I need to have the best vacation and hang out with the coolest forest and take the perfect Instagram photo, like those things can detract from what those different activities bring us, right? So laughter, you may have heard, is good medicine, but the research around that isn't about a person laughing by themselves in their room. Laughter in community is the thing that helps us do well, right? Appreciation of the world around us, appreciation of a beautiful forest, that's going to be better if I can do that with other people, right? The more I can bring my community along, the better impact or the higher impact that's going to have on myself. Right? And we want to be able to acknowledge that sometimes we have good days and sometimes we have bad days, and that's okay. Sometimes just a little bit is plenty. We'll go to the next slide. One of our principles is about safety and predictability. And I think that when I start talking about this, when we start talking about this, people often think right away about physical safety. I just want to highlight here some relational safety. The safety doesn't mean that everything is perfect and comfortable. Relational safety also means that I can be real with you, that I can show up and say, today has just been too much for me, right? That's part of being in community. I'm not going to be a part of a community where I always have to show up as my very best perfect self, because I don't have one of those, first of all. And secondly, when I know that I can show up, so if I show up with Stephanie, she's part of my community. If I show up to a meeting and I tell her, wow, I just had the worst experience and this is what's going on for me right now, she can hold that for me. She can spend a little time with me there. She may not agree with me. She may think, oh, that wouldn't have hurt me that same way. But the fact that she gets who I am and where I'm coming from really helps me feel that sense of belonging with her. So I want to give you a moment to just think about, where are the places that you feel safe enough to be your whole self, your angry self, your sad self, your upset self, right? And when we share that in some community, that also can lighten the burden a little bit. We go to the next slide. Thinking about that lightening the burden, we are hardwired. Humans are hardwired to be in communication and connection with other people. Co-regulation is a really important skill that we talk about all the time. Now we see it, the most common, easy example would be with babies. If a baby is crying, they are not going to be able to just calm down. They are not going to be able to use their words and tell us what's wrong. What they do is they borrow our regulation. So if a baby is crying, an adult goes, picks them up, gives them a little bit of soothing, and the baby then borrows from the calmness of the adult. If the adult isn't calm, that actually won't work very well. But it's not just for babies. It's also important for us as adults to have people where we can, like I was saying, like Stephanie, being able to see and understand where I'm coming from. We need that throughout the day. I'm certain that all of you have people in your lives who are supportive of you at some level. And if you work in a school building, you're there a lot of hours in the week. And so you also need co-regulators in school building. It's like the person who was talking about anchors, right? Knowing other people care can be life-saving. And so I want you to think about who are the people at your school site, at your work site, if you work in an office building, that when you are having a tough day, you can make a little eye contact and be like, oh, this is one of those days, and have them say, I know what you mean, right? Even if I'm having a great day, I can relate to you and I can share my calm and regulation about the day to allow you to come into a space where you are you're self-regulated, right? And this is also part of building your webs of support. I'm going to build my web of support with people who can hold me a bit when I am where I am. If I'm crying like that baby, I might need someone who can listen and just say, I understand that feeling. I get where you're coming from. So I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think about who might be a co-regulator in your life. Maybe, first of all, in your life outside of your school, but right, like your school is also your community. If you're working in a school building, that's one of your communities. And so like, who at school is that person for you? Or so if you can think of one, awesome, let's try to think of two. If you can't think of any, that's your homework now in the next week or two, is to figure out who is my person at school that can help me with a little bit of co-regulation. Can we go to the next slide? So one of our other principles is empowerment and collaboration. There's a ton of research that shows that when I can offer meaningful voice and choice, then my sense of belonging will be stronger. When I talk about meaningful voice and choice, I think about how many educators work in school buildings where they don't get to choose so many things. My partner is an educator, and one of her colleagues, she just found out, is being moved from 4th grade to 2nd grade. No choice offered at all. That teacher is now teaching 2nd grade this year, even though they didn't hear about it until just now, right? There's so many ways that we might feel like I don't get to choose. I don't get to have some input into what's going to happen next. So what we want to be able to do is find places where there are some voice and choice. So if you're working in a school building and there's some, I don't know, leadership committees or sunshine committees, or I know committees are tough. And when we, like the person who was talking about volunteering, when we spend a little time though in that committee, if we start to feel like our voice and choice matter, we're going to feel a bigger sense of belonging in that community. Next slide. So Deanna Zant has an awesome 7-minute video about this, so I'm not going to actually tell you the whole thing about the video. You can watch the video for yourself. But what she talks about is the ways that as an individual, like I cannot actually self-care my way out of a pandemic, out of rising numbers of people who are struggling with mental health issues. Like I can't do that alone. I need to do that with other people, right? I cannot individually solve the problem of childcare, for example, for Stephanie. If Stephanie needs childcare, she has got to go to her community to make that work, right? And so there are many ways that the systems that we live in right now are not really set up for our well-being. They really just aren't. And so what we're really hoping that we can do is we want to invite people to be able to be part of a community care movement so that we can care for one another. Like Buy Nothing groups is an awesome option. Somebody was talking earlier about plants, the thing about plants, right? I might not be able to go and find plants that I can buy, but on my Buy Nothing, there's a regular contributor who says, I have seedlings, I have cuttings, I have aloe plants, I have, right? And that are part of our community, so that not just that person and her family are benefiting from those plants that can, clean the air, but that she's spreading that out in our community locally. So we want to be thinking about how we're plugging in to the systems of community care that might already exist. And with the next slide, I'm going to hand it back to Stephanie.
All right. So before we close out, just these are little seeds for you all to take with you and think about how you can support a community of care in your school network, even in your own communities. So going back to your visual, your graphic on paper, when you've imagined in your mind, take a moment of reflection to think about how your school site contributes or co-creates some communities of care. On the limbs of your tree, you can write down what are some of the strengths, what are the things that your school is already doing well, whether that's ways you feel cared for and as part of that community, or the way the school site or your organization cares for others. And on the limbs, begin to jot down, or sorry, and on the leaves, begin to jot down what might be some areas of change that you can hold with you as you're moving into the start of this school year. What are some changes that can more positively create a community of care for the one that you are in? All right,
Thank you
and then we'll
very much. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Stephanie. I apologize. Go ahead.
That's okay. Just one more slide and then we can hand it over, maybe two. And so just as we leave, we'd like to invite you all to commit to one idea that you can, you have some voice and choice over, that you can contribute to creating a caring community. And then I think the next slide is just our contact information, which can also be put into the chat. Thank you all so much for the opportunity, and hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the summer and start to your new year.
Thank you very much, both of you, for presenting, sharing your ideas, giving us some concrete examples, the resources, supports. It's greatly appreciated. And I want to thank everyone for attending today. I want you to know you're seen and we see you, and we want to continue to offer as much support and resources as possible during this academic year, and not just during the academic year, beyond the academic year. So I'd like to give a shout out of appreciation to Sarah Eaton, who did a stellar job with Allie from Find My Anchor. And thank you very much to Heather and Mar from San Diego County Office of Education. You are truly two of the best content experts statewide. I'm very happy to have this partnership with you. And Chief Skaggs, I think you know how fond I am of the work that you do to support the school health of our school community. So thank you very much. And to our last two presenters, I'm going to leave you with this one final thought. Every child is one caring adult away from changing their narrative. Please be that one caring adult. Thank you. And we hope to see you at our next webinar. I think the link was dropped on August 14th. All things back to school. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.